The year that I turned 19, my entire world changed. I lost my pediatric doctor due to some really unfortunate circumstances, and I no longer had a doctor to take care of me. In the middle of me no longer having a pulmonologist, I had a cervical cancer scare, and in the middle of that, my health just completely took a turn for the worst. And my lung functions went from the 70s to the 30s like that. My lower airways were, I think, 5%, and I barely weighed 100 pounds, if not that at some points. So in the middle of all of this, I didn't have a pulmonologist. I didn't have anyone to help me along to get me the antibiotics I needed to get me admitted. Where I live, no one really wants to deal with cystic fibrosis patients, and it took almost a year for me to find an adult pulmonologist that would deal with me and would help to get me better. I had gotten to the point where I couldn't even stand up to brush my teeth, let alone lead as normal of a life as I could in the months prior. I had finally gotten to a hospital that had seen me whenever I was younger. And whenever I did lung functions there, I had dropped to about 40%. And it was kind of a shock. It was the lowest I'd ever been at that point, and I didn't really know what to do. So the doctor sent me home, and whenever I came back, they were at 34%. This was about a week and a half, 2 weeks later. And he sent me home again doing nothing. I went back and they were at 30%, and he still wouldn't put me in the hospital or do anything for me. And it was like, in a week I'm losing 10% lung function, at this rate, like how much longer am I going to make this? Like I had no spirit left in me at that point, and I felt so betrayed by my body and by the healthcare system and by my healthcare team that I had grown to love, and I didn't know what to do. So I decided it was time to take my health into my own hands. If I was going to save my own life, and if I was going to live the life that I've always wanted to, I was going to have to no longer depend on anyone else but myself, and it ended up having to be up to me. The first thing I had to do was to get determined. I had to light a fire under my butt and just get myself motivated. My spirit was so torn down, and I was so depressed, and I knew I was dying, and I felt it, and you could see the look in my face just as how it was the end of the world for me. And I can't explain that feeling, but I'm sure those of you out there that really need this video are going to completely understand the feeling that I am talking about. But to put a long story short, my world was over, and it had nothing to do with anything in my personal life. It all had to do with my body it was beating me down, and my disease was winning, and I was letting it win, and it was getting the better of me. So I had to find hope. I was on bed rest for about 2 months in the January of that year. And so I had a lot of downtime to think about things. I started reading books to inspire me, and I started watching TV shows that I found messages in them that just really touched my heart. So I had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to figure out what I was going to do, come up with a game plan. So I had started a nutrition school just to really figure out some kind of way to fix my body if I wasn't getting the medicine I needed with food and supplements and things like that. So I ended up adding these supplements to my diet. So I added these supplements that vary from the reasoning of my joints to digestion to inflammation to kind of just things that help overall with my health. Once a week I add these 4 vitamins on top of my ADEC as kind of like an extra ADEC The prescription bottle is D, and I have K, A, and E that I take at night when I take the rest of my pills. And along with that, I cut out all sodas. I drank strictly water, which caused it made all of the difference in the world with my health, just changing to water. My body was finally being hydrated instead of dehydrated by the extra sugary drinks, or the artificial drinks, or things like that were just putting poison into my body rather than water to help, flush out the mucus and the bacteria that was in my body. So once I did that, my blood sugar also my blood sugar was out of control. It didn't matter what I did, I couldn't control it. So I cut out all simple sugars. I cut out all fast foods. I added in whole grains and more protein, not really worrying about high fat, but worrying about high nutrition with fruits and vegetables, and just finding the most nutrition, superfood based foods that I could put in my body and just eating them. And I wasn't even eating that much because of how sick I was. I couldn't keep that much food down or stomach it enough to be able to force myself to eat it. But I was gaining weight because I was getting the nutrition I needed rather than the fat my body was not absorbing. And once I had started to gain the weight, I had started to gain some energy to where I could push myself to work more on my lungs. Treatments is a huge, you have to do your treatments. If you are not doing your treatments the way you need to, when you need to do them, that's your problem right there, and you need to stop watching this right now, or watch this while you're doing them, and go sit down and do your breathing treatments, and put on your vest, and put on your favorite show, or read a book, or put on some music, and grab a coloring book. I don't care what you do, but do your treatments. I was doing my albuterol at that time every 4 hours with the Hypersal. The Hypersal ended up tearing up my throat so bad though, and I ended up without a voice for about a month and a half. I went to the emergency room and they gave me a lidocaine mask nebulizer, which made my entire face peel, and I had holes in my lips from it, and it was not a pretty sight, but it did help my throat some. And then after that, I talked to a respiratory therapist, and she told me that I needed to mix in the saline, the salt. I needed to mix in the Hypersal with the albuterol, and it would stop the bronchospasms that was causing me to lose my voice, which I have done. I've done it ever since. It hasn't stopped me from coughing less. It hasn't, I'm here and I'm living, and I haven't lost my voice from the Hypersal since, and my throat isn't as raw as it was before, so I'm very grateful for that. So that's a tip out there for you guys if the Hypersal is messing with your throat. I do my best about minimum an hour a day, maximum about 3.5, 4 hours a day, depending on how sick I'm feeling. Back then, I was doing that thing good 4 hours a day minimum because I was in bed all day because I didn't feel well enough to do anything else. And it was doctor's orders, so, there's that. From when I had the cervical cancer scare and I had to have most of my cervix cut off and burned and all of that stuff, I was put on bed rest. Rest was really important. I'm really glad that I was put on bed rest for so long, just to force myself to stop and relax and rest and give my body the sleep that it obviously needed. I think I had gone a good 2 weeks and literally only got out of bed to pee and just slept. I did nothing but sleep. I would wake up to drink a shake and I would go back to sleep because I had no energy in me to do anything else. I had started doing breathing exercises whenever I would go to just lay down in bed to go to sleep. And I would just lay there every night and I would take a deep breath in and I would let it out, and I would just focus on my breathing, where the air was going. And then I would start pushing myself further with them. I would take a deep breath in, hold it, and then try to force myself to take an even deeper breath in. And even if I wasn't getting the air in me, I was expanding my lungs and trying to work my lungs and stretch the tissue, which did. My lungs were so sore. I cried for weeks on end. They were so sore for me doing this every night, but it made all the difference in the world. And I still do that to this day. If I'm feeling a little tight or just not feeling all that well, I'll just take a couple of minutes out of my day just to sit there and focus on my breathing. And it does wonders. It also, I would do that when I would swim. I had a pool in my backyard at my parents' house, so I would swim quite often whenever I could force myself to. I would breathe like that during my treatments. Breathe in as deep as you can when you're doing those treatments, because the medicine has to get where it needs to go. Like, that just has to happen. And then with exercise, once I kind of rehabbed myself enough in bed, it was time to get up and exercise. Core strength is so important with cystic fibrosis patients, and I don't think a lot of them know that. And I know a lot of doctors don't talk about it. But I had taught Pilates for years, from the time I was 15 to 18, and that was the healthiest my lungs were up until the point that I'm at today. The core strength is it makes coughs more productive because you're coughing from your core, not necessarily with your shoulders, and it's going to put less strain on the rest of your body with you coughing. And core strength is just really important. So I would recommend Pilates or yoga, just anything that is going to get your core working and stronger. Pilates, what I've learned with that is whenever you're working out, it doesn't matter what stomach workout you are doing, Pilates or running or crunches or whatever you're going to do, pull your belly button towards your spine, suck it in, shoulders back, and just work. If you're doing that, you're working the innermost core of your body, and that is what you're strengthening, and that is what you need just to keep yourself together. And cardio is very important. Just take little steps. It is hard. I know it is so hard, not just to get yourself motivated enough to do it, but to actually do it. And I can't tell you how many times I just broke down crying because I wasn't able to do the things that I was able to growing up. Because I grew up a dancer and I grew up an athlete and I played all of these sports and did all of these things that, when you get to the point that you can't even stand up, let alone do the things that you used to be able to do, it's very hard and it takes a lot out of you emotionally, let alone physically. Just take the time to breathe. Don't try to force yourself to do things you're not able to do, but listen to your body and just work on it. If you just take 2 minutes of your day to try to walk and breathe while you're walking, and then the next couple of days try to do 5 minutes, and then the next week do 10 minutes, and just things like, it's a process. And getting our bodies it's all this evolution of things we're working towards. We're trying to build. Our bodies are trying to kill us. So it's this constant fight of us against the world, practically, because this is our world right here. And this is what we're fighting. We're fighting everything that is us. And it's tiring and it is exhausting. But I know if you put your mind to it, and you do everything you need to and more, and you take the time just to listen to your own body and what you need, I know you can do it, and I know you can beat this, because I did, and I really didn't think I could. And I believe in you, and I really hope some of the things in here could help you. I didn't really want to ramble on too much in this video, so if you have any questions, leave them down below or email them to me. I really hope that, my story is something that can inspire you or help you or help someone you may know, inspire someone you may know. I mean, I went through what I did for a reason, and I'm trying to find that reason, which is why I decided to do these videos. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.